Hi everyone. Today we're going to do a teapot. I'm going to show you how you can take a small pot like this and we're going to put some herbs and flowers in it that we can make a tea from. So we're going to start with this 2 cubic foot low bowl, which is about 12 by 6 inches, so 12 inches across, 6 inches deep. It's got 3 pre-drilled holes in it. I have some pottery shards here that I'm going to use to cover up the hole. So it's very simple. So I would recommend that you hang on to all those broken pots because you will find a repurpose for them. So those are covered up. Now I'm going to take my high-tech scoop, which may or may not be the top half of a laundry detergent, and we're going to use it to fill this bowl with about 3/4 of the way with soil. And we're going to scatter a little bit of a standard 4-6-4 fertilizer, water it in, and then we're going to be ready to plant. More.
Hey Anastasia, how much fertilizer did you put in there?
I put in a 1/2 cup, and the way I know it was a 1/2 cup is because it was just about a handful, which will turn out to be a 1/2 cup. You can always try it at home and see what a 1/2 cup looks like in your hand. If you're a guy with ginormous hands, it's going to be a very small handful. But if you're like me, it's just going to be kind of a full one, and you should be right in the 1/2 cup mark. We have completed putting in about 3/4 of the amount of soil that we're going to need in this pot. I've wet it with my watering can. I like to go around the very edge at the end just to make sure, because that seems to be one place that doesn't always get it right away. And then I just kind of go back and forth in a little bit of a grid to make sure that that soil's nice and moist. So now we're ready to actually do some planting. I'm looking at what I'm going to plant, which is a silver thyme, a French thyme, a German chamomile, and a pansy. And this little pansy just popped up in my yard as a volunteer, and I know that the flowers make a lovely flavoring in waters or tea, so I thought I would just pull it out and we would go ahead and pot it up in this pot today. So the first thing I'm going to do is decide which plant I want to go in the center, what is going to be sort of the main event in this pot, and I think it's going to be the German chamomile. So I'm going to plant this, then I'm going to plant the 2 thymes, and I think I'll save the pansy for last. So what I like to do is I like to get a little bit of a mound going, and then once I remove this plant from its pot, I'm going to spread the roots out over the mound. I want to be mindful that the top of this chamomile is going to be even. This soil line right here is going to be even where I want the top of this pot to eventually finish. So I'm going to take out the plant tag. I'm inspecting the bottom to see if we have any roots coming out the bottom, which we do not, so I don't anticipate that this is root bound in any way. I give it a little squeeze. It's kind of like a dream catcher from elementary school when you used to do that little thing. And then I like to support the soil. I turn it upside down, give it a little shake. So we do have some roots here. You can see them. They're circling a little bit, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very gently kind of tickle them out. Get them so they're coming out. Oh, this is working beautifully. So we're getting them out. Everything looks quite happy. So here we have our chamomile. The roots have been teased apart, and it's ready to be placed over this mound. Now sometimes you'll find that you've aced it on the height of the mound, but if you need to go back and adjust it, it's really not that hard. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it over the mound, work it in a little bit, and then I'm just kind of eyeballing it. So right here to there, I think that's going to be a nice fit. I kind of like that. Okay. So I'm going to take just a little bit of soil and cover up those exposed roots before I plant my next herb, which is going to be the thyme. There we go. Now this is very dry soil, but we're going to wet it after we get everybody else in here. going to line up my plant tags. This is the French thyme. That's going to go in next. I'm looking at the bottom. I don't see any roots at the bottom of it. I'm anticipating this is going to come right out. Okay, so here we are with our finished product most of the way. We have planted the chamomile, the silver thyme, the French thyme, and the pansy. As I was planting, I took my plant tags out and I set them up in a row. In this instance, it's very clear which one is silver thyme and which one is the French thyme. But you may be planting sometime when your plants are quite alike, or maybe you've got a color scheme. So if you lay them out in the order in which you planted them, then you can go ahead and put those plant tags back in. I'm going to wait to do that until I've watered this in a little bit more thoroughly. I started to do it. So once you get your main plant in, then you go around and you start putting the next ones in. I do a little mound. I try and guesstimate so that the top soil level of this plant is going to be at the exact same level as the chamomile and the French and the pansy. Once I get them all in, I take some of my potting soil, which hasn't been thoroughly wetted yet, and I put it in and I tamp it down gently. And when I think that I've really tried to get it in all the little nooks and crannies, then I go ahead and I start watering it in. And I kind of go back and forth. I do a little bit of a grid system. And I'm going to do this a couple of times because I really want to get the air pockets out. It's an opportunity to give your plants a little shower because, you know, potting up can be a little bit of a messy proposition. So if you've got dirt clods or soil clods in there, don't worry about it. You can just give them a little rinse. And you may find that the soil will depress in some areas more than others. Well, that's what you want. You want to know exactly where your soil level is, and then you can just go back and add a little more. And I think I am going to add a little more because once I water it a second time, I'm going to see it really go down. And for example, on this side, it's a little bit lower than it is over here. So at this point, I don't really need to use the scoop, you know, because I know exactly where I want to put it, and I'm going to kind of lay it out as I go. Again, I'm trying to be mindful to get it in between the plants because sometimes that's where you'll find you have a real depression. Using the back of my hand to tamp it down gently. I'm not a big fan of just, you know, compacting it. The roots aren't going to like that. And even if you find 3 days from now, oh gee, you know what, it's a little bit lower than I thought it was, you can go back and you can add a little soil. So there are always workarounds for how you do things. And right now I'm looking at this pansy and I'm feeling like it's a little bit low because I can see quite a few of the leaves are buried. So I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to come down and I'm just going to pop it up just a little bit, right? And then I'm going to take some more soil and make sure it's in there. And when I wash this off, I'll be able to see that this soil level is more compatible with the chamomile and the thyme. Okay, so here we are, sort of at the end of our TeaPot expedition. I'm going to take my plant tags and put them next to the herbs that I planted. Here's the German chamomile, the French thyme, which we know is French because it's not as silver as the silver thyme. Now I'm going to use my watering can to just kind of clean things up a bit. I like to wash off the plants, get the leaves nice, make sure that all the soil that I've added has been moistened. I go ahead and I rinse off the rim. And there you have it, a little teapot to enjoy.